Hello folks, we are finally going to talk about the Samyang 35 to 150 2 to 2.8 lens for the L mount, and this lens is a beast and it's beefy and heavy, but it's amazing. I managed to organize really cool things with it so I can get to do a review, proper review for you guys. So stay tuned to see some nice pictures and photographies. And something unfortunate happened to me, which I had dents. I don't think you're gonna see it, but I got dents here and a little bit around the lens because while I was shooting, it fell out from the bag. So that's another optimal test where it held pretty well. It just got some dents around, but I tested the optics and everything is working pretty well. So yeah, and there is one thing actually that Samyang didn't talk about, or nobody on the internet is talking about, or I don't know if other people knows about it, like who hasn't got the chance of shooting with this lens yet, that yes, is a 2 to 2.8, so there is one stop incrementation from the 35 millimeters to I think it's like 42 to 45 millimeters, where the constant aperture changes. So while you close it down, it changes. But what I didn't know that actually it doesn't change only when you are like, at the minimal part of when you are closing it down, but it changes even when you are closing it down or opening up at the extreme of the f-stops. So basically, when you reach at 35, it's basically from 2 to f2 to f16. But this lens is able to go to f22. But to be able to go to f22, you have to have it until that 45, 41, I think, millimeters, and then you can have until f22. So it's a constant aperture, basically only between, I think, like 41 millimeters to 250, basically. So it's gonna change when it's like fully closed down, and it's gonna change when it's fully up, fully open. So you have to remember and to keep in mind that, because I didn't know until I actually saw my f-stops changing while I was shooting, and I was like, oh, okay, so it changes even at f16 onwards when you're like zooming in. So basically it's 35, then you zoom in, 37, blah, 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 and then it starts like closing up, sorry, opening up. The f-stop from f16, it will change until f22. So there is a constant aperture only between, let's say, 41 to 150. But before that, you're not going to have a constant aperture. So it's going to be always from 2 to 2 to 2.8, or from 16 to f22. I hope you understand what I mean, but if you didn't understand, write me down below in the comment and I'll make sure to have a video about that, because I think this video is already pretty packed, so it's not a super huge important thing. But one thing that for sure you have to keep in mind is that if you want to use an ND filter, just start from 2.8. For me, this lens is basically a 35 to 150 f2.8. That's it. If I want to use that too, I will basically just like shoot only at 35 and that's it. So that's my take on it. And I took 4 minutes to explain this, but yeah, let's go straight into the other part. So basically, this what I just talked about is basically a con for me specifically, but it's not a huge con. So the other cons are like the weight, because this weighs at basically a pound, I think is in the US metrics, but it basically weighs at 1,224 grams. But on a gimbal, it works pretty well. You just have to properly balance it at around, let's say, between 185 and then it works pretty well. The only problem is that the zoom here, the zoom ring is pretty stiff. So on a gimbal, you will not really be able to zoom it properly without like having some issue on the gimbal. So keep that in mind that you will have to zoom in first while this gimbal is like down, or and then you have to kind of deactivate the gimbal arms and then change your zoom and then reactivate again the gimbal, because it's heavy, like it's and it's tight, so it's not going to be that easy for you to change focal length on a gimbal. The third con is basically vignetting. Many people have been talking about on the 35 side when it's in f2 there being like a vignetting, and yeah, there might be some. It's really soft for my eyes and for what I've seen, so I put in a con just to make you aware of it, but it's not something you're really gonna see if you are not really looking for it. Plus, I shoot mainly in open gate anyway, so I will be cropping in anyway or resizing it anyway. And yeah, even though you shoot like on the 4K mode, I don't think that's gonna be any big issue. So it is what it is. Yeah. So the last but not the least con is that the customizable buttons. So there are two customizable buttons, and then you have three customizable switches, which at the moment you cannot really customize none of them, or they come already pre-made, like there are already some settings already here, and the only ones you can like customize are the two buttons, which you can customize technically only one. So you just basically customize the buttons, but then both of them will kind of do the same thing. So there isn't really a way to customize one button and then the other one you do something else with it as for now, because in the Sony version what you will do is that you need this dock that you will attach on the back and then attach it to your computer, and then there you can do all your customizations. So that is something to be aware about, that on the L mount you can't change the customization yet except from one button, but then both of them will work on the same way. And another thing is the custom switch 3. You will not be able to use it as for now, because on the Sony version it's supposed to be like a dolly zoom. Well, and I haven't found the way to actually do it yet. So if you know, write me down below so I can understand how to do it. But unfortunately, as for now, I don't know how to do it, and it hasn't been working for me. I've watched the Sony versions and I tried to do the same and follow the steps, but nada de nada. So that's be it. Those are the cons for the moment. Let's go to the pros, because there are plenty of pros. And yeah, let's go straight into the focal length. So it's versatile. Like it's amazing. It's one of the best lenses I have ever used in my life, because now I can use only two lenses for work. I've sold all my lenses and I have only this 35 to 150, and then I have the 16 EF. Ah no, actually it's filming me now. It's filming me now back there. I have a vintage lens there, but yeah. So yeah, and it's versatile. And if you decide even to use basically the APS-C mode, you will basically be extending this to a 75 to 300 f 2.8. So you will basically get a telephoto lens out of this beast of a lens by just cropping in the sensor. So why not? Like if you need that extra reach, go for it. Like a lot of photographers actually do that to just have an extra reach when they don't have enough reach. So that is an amazing focal length, an amazing thing to do. And then the IBIS works perfectly with this lens because it's like an in-body stabilization, so we don't really have any IS on this, but the IS with this works really, really, really extremely good, even though this doesn't have IS, so there is no complaint there. Image quality, oh God, what can we say about image quality? The image quality is just amazing. It's beautiful, it's sharp throughout. It's sharp from 35 to 150. I know that in the Sony version, many have said that at 150 and at 35, I think it's like softer, and then in the middle is sharper, but I've used it wide open to medium telephoto lens, and it's sharp all throughout, and it's beautiful image. The bokeh, it's mwah, it's beautiful, and yeah. So I don't know what is there is to complain about the image. It's just beautiful and creamy, and well, you're seeing already some image on the screen, so you know what I'm talking about. And basically, the phase detect autofocus, the hybrid phase detect autofocus from Lumix works basically natively in this lens. I have had no issue with autofocusing with this lens in photography, in videography. It's beautiful because it's part of the L mount of Lions, or sorry, no, not of Lions, L mount of Alliance. So it works basically amazing as a native lens because that's how they do in that alliance. So it doesn't really become like a third-party lens, but it become basically a first-party lens because it's an L mount lens. That's one of the beauties of being part of the L mount of lenses. That's how they work. The focus ring, that's one of my favorite part, that the focus ring has dents on it already. So you don't need to purchase this dangly dents thingies that you will usually purchase on Amazon, like a ton of them to put them on all your lenses. I have like some of my 16 millimeter to 35 2.8 from EF, so I have it one there, but it's beautiful that this comes natively done in it, so you don't need to attach them for the follow focus. You have it already there, and it's amazing. I hope more companies will actually think about this because it's just amazing, and even the grip with your hand is even better, smooth, beautiful. So yes, Samyang, well done. So now let's talk about a little bit the switches and the buttons. I know I already talked about them in the cons, but they are in the pros too because you can have a lot of customizations. Like there are 5 customization buttons and switches on this lens. There are 2 basically buttons and 3 switches. And that is amazing. And one of the things that I love about this is that when it's in basically in the second mode, the focus ring becomes an aperture ring, so you can change the aperture from here. So what happened is that you can use these 2 buttons as your focus points. So you basically focus on something, you click 3 seconds on one button, and it will register that focus point that you set. Then you go in another point, you press 3 seconds on the other focus, on the other button, and it will save that. And you can basically switch between them to 2 different points of focus points that you set throughout this. And that's really, really good. But then, what does the other buttons do? Or the other, what does the other switches, custom switches do? In the first one, basically the focus ring stays as a focus ring. In the second one, as I said earlier, the focus ring becomes as basically an aperture ring. So you basically have an aperture on here. You can change your f-stops. And then the third one, as I talked about in the cons, it's supposed to be a dolly zoom shot, like what what Spielberg does on the Joey movie. But unfortunately, as for now, I haven't been able to reproduce it because I saw it from the Sony version that you are able to do that. But as for now, it's not possible to do that. And yeah, unfortunately, I wanted to reproduce that Spielberg Joy movie, but we can't as for now. There might be a dock coming out. I hope not. I hope Lumix will work with Samyang so that we can actually just have customization in camera than having another accessories to do that. But hey, I can imagine it could be a difficult thing to do. So we will see. We will have to wait and see. We have one more feature that to talk about that is not really advertised, but it looks like this lens is parafocal. And if you don't know what parafocal means, is that when it's like in manual mode, you focus on something. So you basically focus on something, and then you zoom out or you zoom in, the focus should be staying in that specific point. And that's what actually seems that is happening with this lens. I don't know if it's 100% parafocal, but from my test, it looks like it is. So it's amazing. And I got this idea especially because I was watching another YouTuber video where they were comparing the parafocal of the Tamron version, because Tamron has the same lens, or better, Samyang did it after Tamron, but anyway, they have both same lens, and the Tamron is not parafocal, even though it costs like 400 to 500 euros more, while the Samyang one, it is. So that's quite a super cool thing. And the last but not least thing, this doesn't come down when it's facing down. Now it's unlocked, as you can see here, because I saw from the Sony version, this is really easy. So that comes down really easily. Of course, if you pull with your hands, it comes down. And I think it's actually cool. That means you can like control the lens by just like, you know, pulling it out in this way. I know that Sigma has some lens which they have done some cool thing where you can actually do it. I'm not sure if I'm damaging the lens by doing this, so I will stop doing that. But then let's see when it's out. Does it come down? Yeah, that's the difference of the things. When it's like this, upside down, it actually slowly a little bit come down. I think now it kind of stopped, but when I test it out outside, it will, I think at some point I will turn and I will come back and it will be down, but you will never keep your lens in this way anyway. You will always like keep like this the lens. But yeah, guys, so this was a damn long video. Wow, I think this is like my longest video here, but I tried to do the best as I could to bring to you guys a fair and a good, really good testing for you guys. So I would love for you guys to subscribe if you haven't subscribed. And if you feel like there is a lot of value in here, let's comment down below and have a chat. And yeah, thank you for hearing me blubbering, sticking here, and thank you for supporting me, especially if you are like an old timer here. Much love, much appreciation. Hope you're taking good care of yourself mentally and self-wise, because I'm in therapy, because I need some help from childhood traumas. But I think that will be a topic for another video in a little bit of time. But thank you for sticking here with me. Hope to chat with you down below. If not, take good care of yourself, and I'm gonna see you in the next one.